Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.
All right.
Hi.
Shine, how we doing, brother?
Doing great, man. doing really the best I've ever done, bro. Smile and nod. How are you? Enough about me. How are you doing?
Great, man. Great. Busy week. Super excited. This one's at 9 p.m., not 11. For me, at least. No, 9 a.m. over there. So good morning.
9 a.m. broadcasting live from beautiful Bali, Indonesia. Weather is 94 degrees. I don't know.
Did you get a lift in?
Bro? No, I haven't. I haven't done anything today. I just did my morning practice, a couple sun salutations, a little forward ambulation, a la Huberman, and some breathing.
Love that.
But I got a killer lift in yesterday. I did about 2.5 hours. Been using the baking soda for pre-workout. I don't know if you played around with the baking soda pre-workout, but it is next level. You do have to be careful because you will shit your pants. Now, I don't want to threaten you with a good time, but
I never did it as a pre-workout though. That's interesting.
The endurance you get from it, you do it 60 to 90 minutes before. You don't get tired. Like you just don't.
That's interesting. What do you do? Like a tablespoon and 10 ounces of water type thing? How do you do that?
Not a tablespoon, bro. I would like to tell you a tablespoon, but you're my friend. It would be hilarious. If you're going to film it at the gym, then yes, it will be a tablespoon.
So what are we talking measurement-wise?
Like a small teaspoon. But start even smaller, like a little, like less than a teaspoon, just to see. Some people get GI distress.
All right, good to know that. Dude, I'm so pumped for this episode today. First interview with Giga Motion.
What did you lift? Don't gloss this over.
Oh, I didn't do much today. Actually, really should go after today was a crazy day. Did a stream, had some calls, just did some pushies, a couple hundred push-ups because I have to.
How many hundred?
200.
You
I do them in sets of 50.
That's big time, and I didn't do much. I just did like 3,000 push-ups.
Dude, that was like all I used to do. So it's not even, it's kind of like a curse at this point. Like if I want to get a chest pump, I got to do like 150 push-ups or else I just have no chest. But dude, tonight, here we go. So this is the first interview of Giga Motion. Super excited. It's a good friend of mine. Fitness is his life, as you will see. And he's just someone I really look up to, carries himself, just the way he carries himself, well-spoken, articulate, very, very stoic. And I'm excited to get to learn because in my experience with lifting, you have to understand why people are doing lifts, right? How they got to this. What was the process that got to the process, right? If it was all just about following a workout, right? Like anyone that buys a Men's Health magazine would be jacked, right? But I feel like these things, like how they got to this place is so much more important, but it can't be measured, right? There's no metrics for it. So I think that's why when you get to talk to someone in a long form conversation, you really get to learn. So I'm excited to learn, man. So without further ado, let's get an intro from my good friend, Tanz Cho, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen.
Mostly
90, 99% gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the man.
Take me off the screen.
The legend, ladies and gentlemen, Tanz
Tanz
Cho.
Tanz Cho.
Tanz Cho.
Tanz Cho. Yes, I've heard. Kills bears by the hundreds. And if he were here, he'd consume the Jeets with fireballs from his eyes and bolts of lightning from his arse.
All right. The video's
There he is. Yeah.
What's up, bro? First off, I want to thank you for upward angling your camera so you're not outsizing us.
Appreciate that.
Very kind of you, dude. We told him, we said, if you're going to come on the show, we can only see you from the neck up, bro.
I appreciate you guys having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So let's start with, when did you get into working out? Were you was it athletics as a kid? You know, did you just stumble into the gym?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I started out lifting when I first started football at about maybe around 14. So that's the first time I hit a weight room. I also did some wrestling growing up. But yeah, just right around 14, 15, you know, just do the kind of standard football lifts like a few times a week. And then at 18 is kind of when I started, you know, hitting the gym consistently on my own, and been through a lot since then. But
wait, what position you play in football? Middle
About to
linebacker?
ask that.
no, I was kind of smaller and fast, so I played cornerback.
Oh,
Yeah, it was. You know, I've always had pretty good muscle genetics, but you know, until you kind of work it out, you don't really know what you're working with, you know.
Now, did you just play in high school? Did you try to play anything in college?
No, I just played in high school. Yeah, when you know, I was a troublemaker in school. You know, went through a lot of shit, and you know, you guys are talking about the mindset stuff, and you know, I think definitely like going through some things in your life definitely helps, you know, take it to the next level, and lifting particularly. So
Yeah, Sean can speak to that.
enough about me though. Yeah, I played football as well growing up. Our team did very well until we went to provincials. I was in Canada, small town, and we had to play against a team with a black kid. We thought we were very good up until then. We were not.
Yeah, I played football in high school too. I was a corner, but I loved lacrosse. That was my sport. But so when you got into the gym, what did you go by yourself? Did you have a buddy? Did it just start with locker room working out? You know what I mean? Football buddies.
you know, real quick, I'll mention that, like, you know, I think like growing up playing football was like one of the best experiences that I've had in my life, because you don't really know what it's like to, like, you know, build that sort of camaraderie with other men. And yeah, that was just like a great experience for me. But answering your question, I think, you know, like in high school and stuff, you'll go with friends, like, you know, once in a while, but that's before you really start taking it seriously. So at 18, I just started going in on my own. And I think you kind of, you know, I think a lot of people over rely on, you know, having a buddy to go with, to go to the gym with. But I think, you know, it ends up becoming more of like a social thing. And in my experience, like, I've always, you know, I like to get into my zone. So I like to go on my own. And honestly, like when you're really hardcore, it's hard to find people that, you know, aren't gonna slow you down. You know, just being honest. So.
Yeah, taking 5 minutes between each set, telling you about what they're doing tonight. Now, I've worked out by myself for A long time now, since probably 2015. You know, I've worked out alone. When I was in the city, I had an awesome balcony. The last 4 years I lived there, and I would work out on the balcony all year round, winter, summer. I had a couple kettlebells, a couple dumbbells, and I learned that kind of like you just said.
You like to let your neighbors know what you're doing.
What's that?
You like to let your neighbors know what you're doing.
I want them to know, you know, this ain't the spot. You know what I mean? But I did learn, if you want to succeed pretty much anywhere in life, you learn if you have what it takes in the gym, and whether it's in the gym or on your balcony, but it has to be alone. I think there is a lot of power in working out alone. You need to be your own motivation. Like you said, if you're leaning on someone else to get you to that next level, to get that next rep out, that means you're going to lean on that when you get out in the world, like the real world too. And there's nothing worse than a guy when you're working that expects you to carry him, right? So I think a lot of that is learned while you lift. But furthermore, so 18, you kick it off, right? When did you?
Can I touch on that?
For sure.
Camaraderie really quick. There is something really, really special about that. There's something about conditioning. I was always that guy in conditioning that was just, no matter how tired I was, no matter if I was puking, I was always just egging the coach on. Like, we'd be puking from doing wind sprints. I go, that's it. That's just my warm. Everyone's like, shut up, bro. I still, to this day, hear my coaches in my head. I'll be in the ice bath on days where I kind of feel weak. And it's just, fourth quarter, let's get. So those principles instilled at an early age, like, I still carry that with me.
Totally. And, you know, like, when you're going through the process, I remember my first year playing in high school, I had this like really hardcore coach who was like super hard on us, and he cared like really deeply about winning. And, you know, that kind of coach will put you through a ton of conditioning. He'll be on your ass constantly. And, you know, during practices, you kind of hate it. But, you know, we ended up going to the city championship that year. And the next year, we ended up having like a different coach who was just like, you know, he didn't really give a shit. He was smoking weed all the time. And we like lost pretty much all of our games. And, you know, the players were pretty much the same. So what changed? It was the coach. So I think that's big. Another thing is that, like, touching back onto lifting with other people, for me, lifting is really like a meditation. So, you know, I like to just, you know, go in there and just like super zone in on my lifts and, you know, have some music playing. And that's like pretty much how I meditate.
So what would you say your workouts are like? Do you have a structure that you do the same stuff? I've heard you mention before that you do a lot of the basics, but you do it with intention. And I thought that was a great answer. But what would you say your system is, so to speak?
Yeah, it's you know, it's a basic kind of push pull. So I'll do you know, one day I'll do back and biceps. The next day I'll do chest and triceps. The next day I'll do shoulders. Next day I'll do legs, and I kind of just repeat that process. I typically do like abs every other day as well. So
how many days a week we talking here? You 6 day a week guy, 5 day a week guy?
Yeah, it's like 6 days. Like, you know, more recently within the last few months, I've been doing like 5 or 6 days. In those off days, you know, I'm still getting in like, you know, walk or doing an ab session or something like that. But up until a few months ago, I was doing like religiously for like a year and a half, seven days a week. And I think you can get away with that, like, as long as, you know, you're mixing it up and, you know, you're giving, you know, enough rest between different body parts. So.
What do you think of that, Sean? What do you do? I know you're on pretty much 6-7 days a week, right?
Yeah, usually 5 or 6. I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm not very scheduled. I kind of just do what I feel like doing. Like I'm not really super regimented. I don't really have a plan. I don't really keep track of things. I know one day I'm going to hit, I do full upper body and then full lower body and then maybe a day in between with mobility. But it's always just been kind of a go hard. I just do a bunch of stuff and go hard and mix in calisthenics with weight. I like functional stuff. I'm that weirdo at the gym that's like kind of doing the splits and stuff in between sets. I take, I don't usually 90 seconds in between, but I'm usually doing some kind of stretch in between. Like I should try like an actual structured program. I always just kind of go on the flow.
Tanz, do you, in terms of reps, is that, how do you go about that? Do you switch that? Is that something you interchange throughout the weeks, or do you keep a regimented, you're doing 4 sets of 10 type thing?
Yeah. So, I typically do like progressive overload, 3 to 4 sets. In the past, I've always done 4. More recently, I've been doing 3. But, like at a certain point, you kind of like, you reach your genetic limit and you kind of know what you can handle and you know what you can't. So yeah, I mean, I haven't made like much progress in terms of like the actual weight that I'm lifting, but in a couple years. But you can always get leaner and you can always look better. So.
I know you pick up some big weight. I've heard you mention it before. So when you're doing back, what do we do? You doing deadlifts? You throwing on 3-4 plates each side like an animal? What are we talking here? I know they took the plate out at your gym, the deadlift.
Yeah.
Floor. I know that.
I joined another gym because of that. But yeah, I love deadlifts. Not going as heavy lately, but once in a while I'll put up like 500 on deadlift. So
yeah. What about squats? So if you deadlift heavy, that means you squat heavy. I find those things go hand in hand.
Yeah, I'm maxed out at about 500 in the past, but like I'm
for how many reps?
Just 1.
Yeah, that's impressive, bro.
Yeah, it's just like I've just heard so many like horror stories of people getting injured. The whole like Ronnie Coleman thing, like herniating a disc, and then like I always think about him, and I'm like, fuck, man, I don't want to end up like that. So I'm a lot more cautious about it these days. And another thing that I realized that when I was lifting like super heavy, especially on squat, is that my form wasn't the best, and I realized that and I wasn't feeling like much like activation like in my legs either. So what I do more recently is I kind of just focus on like keeping my back like fully parallel, like 100%, and getting that full depth and flexing the quads on the way up and everything. And I found that like just doing a light amount of weight, you can get a really good leg workout that way. So that's what I've been doing more recently.
Ronnie is interesting. Obviously, he's the freak of the freaks, but a couple things that stand out, right? Like he wouldn't work out for more than an hour. That was it. Just high intensity, 1 hour sessions, everything you can. The other thing that I find amazing, he's had, 20 plus surgeries. And when you ask him, what would you change? You go, I would have put in another motherfucking rep. Like I wouldn't have changed anything. Dude,
it's
crazy.
It's like when you're the greatest in the world, man, you're gonna have to make certain sacrifices, and I just have the utmost respect for that. And if you're gonna put yourself in that kind of condition, then just make sure that you become the greatest in the world. So
I don't know if you saw, there was a video of him last week. It was super sad. He was at some lifting competition, and he recently had a botched back surgery. Something went wrong in a back surgery. His legs basically don't work, man. They were trying to get him up on this stage, and it was sad to watch because I mean, yeah, buddy, I mean, that was my college. Like, I just remember listening to that. He was incredible. And I learned I did the same thing. I learned a lot with heavy weights. I don't do much of heavy weights because I've also found for myself, if I am lifting super heavy weights all the time, my body doesn't feel good, and like at my age, it's like, I'm doing this to feel good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm doing this to be able to go run around with my kids. And if I lift heavy like that, I just my body doesn't react great to it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll throw some heavy weights in there because I think that's super important, right? Osteoporosis, like the only way to stop your bones from turning into, sea coral is to pick up heavy weights. There's no medicine to stop that. But yeah, I don't do much heavy stuff like that either. I find it to be counterproductive. There he is, man. Lightweight. Like, look at the size of that man. Legend. I mean, he really changed that sport when you think about it. If you go back and look before him, the guys didn't look like that. He brought on this era of just massive Hulk-like people. Before that, it was way more, definition. And then he just took definition and did this. Jeez. Animal. I wish we could hear it. That's so funny, though.
Can you not hear it?
No.
All right.
But Tanz, so back to the mental side. What would you say for say someone that's just a regular lifter, they work out a couple days a week. What would you say from a mental standpoint is the most important thing to dial into to get you to the next level, to turn you from 2 days a week, you're in there for an hour and a half, you're talking for 45 minutes, to you going 5 days a week and you're in there with a purpose? What would you say what's the mental side that got you there?
When you're initially starting out, I think there's like two different sides of it, right? Like when you're, going from that 2 days a week to 5 days a week is different when, you already have the kind of system in motion and then you just want to take it to the next level. So what I'd say to someone that's just like going in a couple days a week is that they just need to force themselves to go in, like 5 days a week. And, like everybody starts at the same kind of level, right? Like I remember my first few times like going into the gym, and it's the same, even if like, you've built up a consistent routine in the past, but you haven't been for several months or years or however amount of time it is. Like you just have to get in there and you have to do like a couple lifts. And, even if you tap out after a couple lifts, it's okay. Just, go in the next day, do it again and keep doing it until you develop that routine. And I think where things like really click and you really start seeing the progress is when you really start to fall in love with it. A quote that I saw that I really liked is that, obsession beats discipline any day of the week. So I think the way that you get the best results is by really falling in love with the process.
What do you think, Shiny? What would you say? What would you tell people to try to get them to that next level, to get them out of the casual lifter into the, I call that like maintenance mode. How would you get someone out of that?
Well, even to start at like beginner, right? Like if you're first starting, because a lot of this show is kind of catered to, people that are just starting. One is don't set the bar too high right away. What do I mean by that? Like, yes, your long-term aspirations can be very, very large, right? But it's much better. Some people, including myself, tend to go all or nothing, right? The problem is like when you set these crazy, you're like, okay, I'm going to look like Tanz. I'm going to do it this week. People usually end up putting in a week or two, and then it's just not sustainable being able to hold that pace. So sometimes when you're starting your journey, less is more. It's okay to say, hey, this week I'm going to go twice, because when you say what you mean and mean what you say, it builds a certain level of confidence. So instead of trying to, reinvent the wheel right away, just say, hey, this week I'm going to go in twice, accomplish those two, do that for a few weeks, build that repetition, and then raise that bar. And I'm always just a big proponent too of there's no one size fits all. Like maybe you don't like lifting, but you like calisthenics. Maybe you don't like calisthenics, but you want to do sports. Like find something that you really, really enjoy, because then, like Tanz said, you're gonna have that passion for it.
I would say one thing that helps me is, so I don't write out crazy workouts, but I write out what I'm gonna do on a little notebook, right? You know, because I do very basic stuff too. It's like kettlebells, dips, pull-ups, do some cable stuff, but I write it all out. And when I write that workout, I'll make sure it's a workout that I'm 50-50 if I could even finish it. But then I'm not allowed to leave until I finish it. And I cross everything out. And there's something mentally about writing something down and crossing it out and finishing it when you had a doubt that you couldn't do it, that like you kind of get addicted to that part. You know, it's almost like you beat that inner bitch for today. You know what I'm saying? Like I am now 100% going to work out after this because I'm getting fired up just talking about this. But I will write out a workout where I'm like, man, it's going to be like 10:30 at night. I don't know if I get, and I'll stay in there until I finish that workout. And like, to me, that's how I like to start the day or close the day. I think there's something mentally to that where you kind of break that barrier. I think David Goggins does a incredible job in his books and just his videos. His books, both of them, were life-changing for me in a lot of ways. I used to run to them and just listen to them for hours. But he talks about the 40% rule. And what it is most people only hit 40% what they're capable of in the gym and in life. And like when you think you're maxing out, just know you're only at 40%. And that kind of changed the way I looked at things. And then, you know, I started to run and I did all this stuff. And that actually, that like proved that 40% rule true to me, right? Because I had never ran before. And then next thing you know, I ran 6 half marathons, an 18-mile race, all this stuff. And I was like, man, he's not lying. Like the only person that limits us is us. Like we are limitless in a lot of ways. And that's not to say go out there and start running tonight. It's just whatever you don't think you could do, that's because you think it. It's not because it's true. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people out of starting the fitness journey, right? They're just like, well, I can't do that. It's like, well, with that attitude, you can. Like you really can. You know, it's, to me, working out is 80% mental, 20% physical. You know, you see guys that are specimens and you go in the gym with them and you realize it's like, they're like show muscles. You know what I mean? Like they just have great genetics. They can't actually push it. You know, they don't actually push themselves, and you're working out with them. You're like, dude, we're 15 minutes in. You're really going to stop? You know, like that. Yeah. I don't think we're not operating on the same plane right now. But yeah, so I think the mental part of working out is super important. Do you set goals for yourself at all, Tanz? Like to get to where you are, actually, let me take that back. To get to where you are today, did you have to set goals for yourself to get you here? Are you a goal-oriented person like that?
So I think it all starts with visualization. Like you have to kind of see where you want to get before you can actually get there. And you know, in the beginning of like lifting, like I said, when I started out at 18, for me, it was never about the aesthetics. It was just about pushing the numbers out more and more. So like, I've always just kind of been, you know, a numbers guy in terms of, you know, in the most basic sense, like I like to see numbers go up. Right. So yeah, you know, like obviously like most guys, you know, I just start out and, you know, I think for the first few years, like I only did bench press, you know, and I think that that's normal for a lot of guys. I think from my experience, what I've seen is like guys will just start like hitting chest and biceps. They'll get more into it. They'll start hitting, you know, the back, the shoulders, the triceps, and then I think the last stage is always
legs. It's always the legs.
I never want to do the legs. But, you know, I think if you like learn from other people that have been down that process, then you can kind of like, skip a lot of the dilly-dallying and get a solid routine, like as soon as you start off.
So Sean, you said you freestyle your workouts, but do you set some type of goal for yourself, like weekly, monthly, like I'm going to go this amount of times this week, or I'm going to try to, put on X amount of weight, lose X amount of weight? Like, do you set any type of goals for yourself, or you just take it one day at a time?
Yeah, almost never. It's something I should. It's something I should probably try. But I'm lucky. I've been into fitness since a very young age. My problem isn't going in enough; it's recovering enough. So I've never had that issue. Like, I have to force myself to take days off, and I've always been more on the functionality because I come back from a circus background. So I really like what Tanz was saying, where it wasn't focusing on the aesthetic. The cool part about this stuff is the aesthetic just comes. Like, when you find a process that you enjoy that brings you value, the byproduct is being really jacked. I mean, some people obviously prioritize. They put themselves on the brink of death with whatever supplements, diet, and stuff they're taking. My priority is just feeling good, being able to do cool shit, and then the byproduct is you get giga jacked.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And actually, like I said, I started lifting at 18, and I've always been strong, always been challenging myself to put up heavier weights since then. But I never had like the kind of, shredded physique because I wasn't, I would just eat whatever. And I wouldn't train certain things. Like, for example, I never had abs until maybe even a little bit less than 2 years ago. And I remember speaking to my brother about it, and we're just like, he's like, oh no, like we just have shitty ab genetics, and I almost like bought into that story. But I remember seeing like so many of the guys like that you see on the internet, they won't tell you like if they're natural or not, and you don't know if you can like achieve that kind of physique naturally. So like I remember, I'm sure you guys know who Soul Bra is, but a lot of stuff I don't necessarily agree with.
Drinking champion, bro. He drinks like 20 liters of raw milk a day.
Yeah, but so the thing is with him is that like I saw the kind of diet he was on, and that he was claiming that like he was completely natural with that insanely like shredded six pack, and I just thought to myself like, I think this guy is natural, and like if he can do that, like why can't I? So that's like when I really started focusing on the abs, and started doing them every other day. And what do you know, within like obviously the diet was a huge component as well. I started counting calories, counting macros, all that sort of stuff. But I think within like 6 months or so of starting abs, like I had pretty shredded abs, and I never had that all of my life until just a couple years ago. So I think just that like visualization, and then asking yourself like, why not me? Like why can't I do it too?
So when we get, so you mentioned diet, what kind of diet are we talking about here?
Yeah, so for me, like the most important thing I'm looking out for is that I'm actually like paying attention to the exact numbers protein. And I think I was doing like 150 grams per day for many years. And I remember like I was on a flight, and on the TV there, they had like a Phil Heath documentary where he's talking about like, oh, you just, you need to just keep eating, like, like that's the most important part. And like, I got really inspired from that. Also in the past, I had, I've done like all the different diet fads and everything. But, I was the kind of guy where, I'd have 2-3 meals a day. And I used to do like intermittent fasting and stuff. But But anyways, after watching that Phil Heath documentary, I was like, let me like really try and take this to the next level. And that's when I ended up upping my protein to 230 grams per day. And yeah, and I do and I eat like every 2.5 to 3 hours. Cause you know, your body can only like metabolize a certain amount of protein during, you know, a certain interval of time. So you know, there's different times where it can metabolize more, like right when you wake up and after like a hard gym session. But you know, I'll try and do like you know, like 40 grams of protein around there per meal. And like after the gym, I'll you know, I'll do a bigger one, like, you know, maybe 70, 80 grams of protein. With the carbs and the fats, like in the past, I've done like a lot of low fat stuff. And I'm always like pretty low on the carbs as well, but I focus on having like my highest carb intake right before my workout and right after my workout is like when I get most of my carbs in. And that's all like, it's just like all, you know, making food at home as well. I mean, in the last couple of years, like I really didn't go out to restaurants at all, but you know, once you have a girlfriend, like you gotta.
Yeah, that's it, dude. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been eating restaurants a little more recently.
So, what are we talking, like grilled chicken, ground beef, steak? What's your main protein sources?
Yeah,
take us through just like what a typical day would look like when you first eat, like just ballpark.
So in the mornings, I'll just start out with the protein shake. I won't even eat anything, just straight protein shake as soon as I wake up. And then throughout the day, like, I mean, you know, I'll go through different periods where I'm doing it a bit differently. Like the last several months, I was like just doing straight chicken. Last year, I just did like straight like tuna for, you know, like a year straight, just like tuna, like every.
Bro, your heavy metals must have been insane.
Yeah, you know, I tried to get the safe catch, you know, low mercury, whatever, but yeah, I'm sure it was definitely off. But yeah, more recently, I've been doing like a lot of tuna and sardines.
Sardines are packed with nutrients, man. Sardines are a sleeper.
And then
rice, love that.
And then just like for carbs, just like white rice. I've done some tortillas in the past, and the only bread that I'll have is sourdough bread.
Yeah.
Because it just it digests a lot better than other breads. So yeah, pretty basic. And
do you eat eggs at all?
Man, in the past I have, but just more recently I haven't been doing a lot of eggs, which I should probably do more of.
You got a stoic diet here.
Yeah.
Dude.
Rice, just chicken, like.
What's your treat, dude? What's your thing when you need something to celebrate? What are we doing? Ice cream? What are we doing?
No, actually, so my big thing for like the last couple of years, I haven't been doing it as much recently, but it's dried mango slices. So yeah, I love those.
It's like a healthy snack to me.
Yeah.
These mangoes.
Yeah. But I mean, when you're eating that kind of diet, it's almost like, you know, candy, something like that. So,
dude, that is a stoic diet.
Because our last episode was intermittent fasting. You mentioned a lot of people loved it. Some people, especially really jacked people, absolutely hated it. So I'm kind of curious, like, what was your experience with intermittent fasting? Like, why did you stop? And yeah, just dive into that.
Dude, so if I wasn't just trying to maintain as much muscle as I can, then I'd be doing intermittent fasting, because like you feel so good on it. You feel like so mentally sharp. And also that's been my experience with other diets, like particularly the keto diet, which I definitely don't recommend, like if you're trying to build or maintain muscle, but you just feel super like mentally sharp. And that was my experience with intermittent fasting. But if you're trying to get jacked and maintain muscle, like you got to be eating as much as possible. I mean, depending on what your goals are, right? If you just like want to be lean, you can definitely be doing the intermittent fasting. But if you want to like put up heavy weights and you don't, you want to avoid injury, then yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
So do you weigh 230? Is that why you pick 230? Is that what you weigh? 230 grams of protein, or?
No, it's no. I'm under 200. So.
Oof. So yeah, that is tough, bro. That is a feat to eat 230 grams of protein.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'7".
Dude, you're okay. Big boy.
It's just a refrigerator. Just
5'7".
Fridge Tanz.
No, not 200. Like 175 around there.
You're 100.
230 on one set. That's incredible. Yeah, that's tough, bro. That's got to feel. Yeah, that's a workout right there. Damn. All right, so that makes sense.
When you say you don't intermittent fast to avoid injury, is that just because your glycogen might be depleted and you just might get fatigued and not be able to perform your lifts? Is that what you mean?
Exactly.
Gotcha. Somebody asked how old you are too in the comments.
I'm 29.
5'7", 175.
Dude, so you were squatting 500 pounds at 175 pounds? That's insane. Yeah, that is insane. Oh, I love that. So that's some diet. I eat chicken cutlets a lot.
You're the cutlet.
Yeah, cutlet king.
Those look so good.
Dude, the other thing that I make that I just started to post, I didn't post it to get anyone would like them, is those meat patties. Those are cool. You could actually probably make a variation of those that would fit right into your macros, because there's all that it is boiled chicken, ground beef, eggs, and cheese. And you could even take the cheese out if you really wanted to. But those macros are crazy on those things. And that's why I made them. And I really made them because my kids, all they wanted to do is eat chicken nuggets. And I'm like, well, you're not going to eat chicken nuggets. So I'm going to try to make something that looks like it. So you don't do red meat at all? Not really?
I like my steak. I like lamb. I definitely like the red meats, but like I'm usually trying to stay as lean as possible. So I don't do those as often as I would like. But, definitely, depends like what kind of period I'm at. But, I used to do one steak a day. I haven't been doing that recently just because I've kind of been pigging out on the weekends with restaurant food. So
how many pounds of chicken are you eating a week if you're eating 230 grams a day?
How many chickens have died for your gain, sir?
I mean, you got to be going through at least 5 pounds a week.
I mean, I think there's 130 grams of protein in 1 pound of chicken. You guys can fact check me.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, if I'm doing just straight chicken, probably close to like 14 pounds a week.
Oh, I love that. Shine, what do you eat? You never went over what you eat.
So lately, I found this really good restaurant, and it's all organic, it's all grass-fed. But again, it's like I don't really plan it. I'm not counting. I don't think I've ever counted calories and macros. I did it for a week. I said I don't want to do this. This is too much work counting calories. So typical day. Lately, I've been doing these like breakfast bowls where I make my own like coconut kefir, like coconut yogurt. So I do that, couple scoops of protein, some goji berries, some cashews, some nut butter, like a banana or something. And then in the evening, it's been a challenge. I've been trying to eat more because I'm not counting calories, but I can feel I'm eating less. So last night I had, I think 500 grams of grass-fed beef patty, 250 grams of chicken, a bunch of broccoli, zucchini, four pieces of sourdough bread, gluten-free, bunch of potatoes, sweet potatoes, spinach, zucchini, more sauerkraut. Again, it's like everything I do is just kind of by feel. I just kind of feel it out. I eat as much as I can every day, but everything I eat is really clean.
Tanz, do you eat any vegetables?
Man,
I don't either. Yeah, good. I don't either. That's right. It's a man shit.
I mean, does potato count as a vegetable?
Yeah, in my book it does.
Look it up.
But no, I don't really have much vegetables, you know, like
You don't make salad.
no, I don't really do salad. Like, you know, if I'm like in a rush or whatever, I'll get a salad at Subway or something like that. But that's about as much greens as I'm getting. So.
I love that. Now, for like, do you take any? I think you said protein powder. So, do you take anything else like creatine, any amino acids, anything like that?
Yo, what's the suppy routine here, Tanz?
Yeah.
How do we get those traps, baby?
Yeah.
The Trap Lord this week on Giga Motion. The Trap Lord tells all.
Yeah, this is a good one because I always find it funny how, you know, like when I'm not, you know, I'm not like calling you guys out. I'm just like mentioning stories in general. But it's like, you know, when someone is like curious about how you got your physique, like the first thing they always ask is like, oh, like what supplements are you taking? And that's like, it's funny because, you know, if you're natural, which like I'm 100% natural, then it's not about the supplements you're taking, right? Those are like, that's like a few percentage like of the puzzle, right? The other 97% is the food and the lifting. But yeah, in terms of supplements, I've been doing, you know, 10 grams of creatine.
Monohydrate?
Yeah. So 10 grams of creatine. I do taurine. I've done, you know, a little bit, I've done like, you know, magnesium and stuff in the past. But right now I'm only doing creatine, taurine, and L-carnitine pills. And, you know, that's just kind of like I don't know, it's just something that, you know, I saw like on the internet, right, and wanted to try it out. I'm not sure like how, you know, how much of an effect that it's having, but yeah, I've been doing that for like a couple years. So
can you explain when you're taking them and why you're taking them?
Man, I just saw like other like natty guys with good results that were like basically taking them. I think L-carnitine's an amino acid, but I think it's supposed to
it is.
Assist with basically helping
like protein digestion, right?
I think it helps transfer like fat into lean muscle mass. So yeah, that's why I take it.
Now it is funny when people say that, right? You know, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. What do you take?" And it's like, I always just think about it with the bodybuilders. It's like people are like, "Yeah, but he's juiced." It's like, yeah, dude, you could juice and you wouldn't look like that. I promise you that. Like there is still a wild amount of effort that is put in to build a body. Like if you could just take steroids and you'd be jacked, everyone would be jacked. Most people I know that take sauce, they just become fat. Actually, they don't even get big because of that mindset. Like, oh, I'm just gonna take this and get jacked. It's like, dude, no, that is not how this works. Like you, in the end of the day, anything in this world, if it's worthwhile, you earn it. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't just come from taking some supplements.
And it's also like, what are you not taking is like another question to ask too, because you know, I mentioned like I really started getting lean about 2 years ago, and that's the same time that I stopped drinking. So like, yeah,
huge, dude, yeah.
And you know, I just felt like a different kind of drive after that. You know, stop drinking, you know, stop smoking, all that kind of stuff. like you just have this renewed kind of energy that you can like spend in other places. And for me, a lot of that went to the gym. So like I definitely credit that as well. Like especially, you know, like as a natural person, you can't really like afford to be doing that. And I haven't seen um, like natural guys like who are in really good shape that are consistently drinking. Like on the other hand, I do personally know guys that are on testosterone or whatever else, and they're able to get away with the drinking even like 5 times a week. But that just doesn't work as a natural lifter. And like everybody has different goals too. Like if you kind of want to be able to enjoy your life more and kind of have those consistent drinks and everything, and stay jacked, then maybe that's the route that you want to take with like testosterone or whatever else it may be. But I think like what's kind of overblown these days is like young guys getting all juiced up who especially who don't know, like they're not doing it like through a doctor. They don't really know what they're putting into their bodies and what kind of effect it's going to have over the long term. Like I've met a lot of guys who have hopped on different stuff at different points in time, and they're still like relatively young guys. And like you said, Cryptic, like a lot of those guys like do end up like getting fat. They end up with like body dysmorphia, and yeah, like you really need to know what you're getting yourself into when you do that.
It is crazy to see like how young people are, when young people do steroids like that. It's like you don't even know, like males don't even peak until they're like 25. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't you're really selling yourself short when you do that. Yeah, it's tough. But that's like a keeping up with the Joneses thing, right? They see everyone around them doing it. Especially if you don't have kids yet. I think that's a wild thing to do. You should wait until you have kids until you mess around with that.
Another thing that I noticed is that like a lot of the time the guys that are like doing that, they just want the shortcut, like they want to be able to get jacked like in their first year of lifting, when for me personally, like I said, I'm 29, I started at 18, so it's been like 11 years consistently of lifting 5 days a week or more. And like I said, I didn't really get into like lean condition until like the last couple of years. So that took a full 10 years to do that. And throughout that time, I was able to, experiment and kind of learn like how to lift properly, and, how to like really achieve my genetic potential. But, like a lot of guys, they just don't want to go through that process. And what I notice about those guys is that, they don't like a lot of these like kind of like jacked guys who just like hop on the juice, like they don't even know how to lift properly, which is pretty crazy. But then again, like I'm not judging anybody. Do whatever you want to do, but just be just understand that that may have long-term effects on you. So.
Oh yeah, there's no free lunch, right? Like
Yeah.
I on my first cycle, I would do summer cycle. I started at like 25 or something, which is entirely too long. So the thing with roids is if you have a reason to take them, they can make sense, but you have to know you're potentially going to put your body under a lot of stress. You can suppress your own hormones. There's going to be a long rebound from it. So traditionally, when you do a cycle, even if you do, so what I had an intention with it, right? Again, way too young, did it like an absolute idiot. The first cycle, I didn't do any studies or anything on it. I just asked this guy on the black market, what's the strongest shit you have? He gave me Tren, and I got all of the side effects from it. Like I would go upstairs, I was winded, I gained 30 pounds of muscle. in a month, but I had the aggression. I had night sweats. It was horrific. It was a nightmare. The reason I was taking it is because I used to do circus shows in the summer. I would do 20, 45-minute acrobatic shows a week. And I had this 3-month kind of season. So recovery and being able to go every single day, that was really important for me. But at the same time, even with the proper post-cycle therapy, like, you feel like shit afterwards coming off it. Like, what goes up goes down. And somebody was asking about Zins, right? Zins is the same thing, right? Nicotine, I saw 2 questions about that. Nicotine is a neuroprotective in small amounts. The problem is what it's doing is it's making your body and your brain secrete more dopamine. So when you secrete more dopamine using an exogenous compound, you're going to have to go back to baseline. And in order to get back to baseline, you're going to go under baseline. So it's really important to note with all of these things, there's no free lunch. All these chemical stimulants, nicotine, and again, nicotine neuroprotective in very small amounts. The issue is hyper addictive, desensitizes your dopamine. I got to chew in right now, so I'm not judging anyone. But the thing is, what goes down must come up. So if you're going to go on TRT at a later age, which I am right now, you got to do it properly, wait absolutely as long as possible, and just know there's no free lunch. Everything's a trade-off. There's no, like, stimulant energy is borrowed energy that you're going to have to repay in time. It's the same with steroids when not done properly.
You know, I think another good topic that we should touch on is, you mentioned bulking. And, you know, I've been, like, first off, I'd say I recommend, like, nobody, like, ever does, like, a dirty bulk. Because it's like completely unnecessary. I remember, you know, I did like a hard dirty bulk, and like this is the last time I ever did that. But you know, I was having like DoorDash like 4 times a day, like anything and everything, and I was about like 20 pounds heavier than I am now. And man, like I like at the time I had a 2-story place, and I remember like walking up the stairs and like being out of breath, you know, and it's just like ridiculous. So ever since then, I'm always like lean bulking when I am, but that's just something I wanted to.
Yeah, I always found that dirty bulking was just an excuse to eat like an asshole, especially upstate, like especially Northeast, like everyone dirty bulks in the winter. It's like, nah, bro, you're just being fat. There is and like I learned that when I was out in California for a few years, and it was winter time, and I'm like, all right, everyone's gonna get fat. And it's like, oh wait, that's not a thing. Like that's not a thing at all. And like I put on probably like 20 pounds this year. A lot of that was because I finally, not that my shoulder is healed, but it was healed enough to get back to lifting. But I eat a lot of meat, man. Like I eat a lot of meat, and it took a full year. And I would say probably 5 pounds of that is fat. But yeah, it took a whole year to do that. And that was working out consistently. And there is no shortcuts when you're trying to bulk. People think they're going to just be able to put on 20 pounds in 3 months. It's like, even if you do that, you're going to deflate like a balloon. Like it's not sustainable. However you get there, you know, it's not supposed to be, right? The body, it's kind of like a chart, right? Like you just want it to slowly go up. If you just shoot straight up, you're going to come back down because the body wants, right? Like homeostasis, it wants equilibrium. So you want to add the weight on slowly. And I also feel like when people do that, like you said, like what are you doing it for? Right? If you can't walk up the stairs, it's not for your health. Is it for the looks? Is it for your ego? Like, what are we talking about here?
It's for the bench press. That's what it is, you know? Like, I think I saw like bench press, I think, is the lift that is like most correlated with body weight. So it's like, it's really hard to up your bench press, like unless you're gaining weight. So, yeah.
So we got a question in there. You see that? And then we'll wrap up here in a couple minutes.
Yeah,
Tanz goes to bed right now, and I don't want to push that off. This man runs a tight ship.
Let's go to the question, but I got one more thing to add to dirty bulking. It goes back to what Tanz was saying earlier. A lot of the information that you're getting from people, they're on exogenous compounds, right? There's a big difference between somebody just absolutely juiced to the gills. That I remember asking this giant bodybuilder, what do you eat? He's like fucking like giant tubs of ice cream, whole pizzas. There's a big difference between how the body can metabolize these disgusting foods when you're on exogenous gear. And so you got to be careful, because a lot of people aren't honest with it, and you're getting information that maybe works for them. Again, this isn't like health or longevity. They'd be better off eating clean calories, but that's something you really got to keep in mind. Yeah, let's go to the question.
Here, Tanz, I feel like you could answer that one better than us.
I mean, man, like, it's like pretty easy if you just, if you know like how many calories like are in a pound of chicken, like we mentioned earlier, it's about 130 grams of protein. I'm guessing that's maybe like close to 500 calories. And then, like if you're eating something like tuna, you can get cans that are like 130, 140 calories for like 40 grams of protein, maybe 150, 160. But yeah, it's like, it's once you kind of like understand those basics, it's really not that hard to kind of like keep a mental note of what you're having throughout the day. For me, like in terms of like carbs and fats, like I kind of just eye those because I've been doing it for so long. But yeah, I mean,
do you use an app at all? Did you ever use an app? Like in the beginning, did you have or you always just looked at the package, wrote it down?
My Fitness Pal. I tried using
I did that. Yeah.
I've always kind of just kept mental notes.
For people, I suggest, because I agree, for a lot of people it turns into a chore, and I get all that. But like Tanz just said, if you download something like My Fitness Pal, I don't even know if it's free anymore. That's how long ago when I did it, it was free. I bet you I could find a free one. But if you just track, first of all, you should be eating similar foods, right? In that sense, like it shouldn't be like one day is wildly different than the next day than the next day. Like if you're on some type of structured diet, like your foods are going to get reduced down to, and I'm not saying you got to be like Tanz and eat 3 things. But it's going to get reduced down from 40 things to like 10 things, right? And if you just track your macros for a week, right, just a full 7 days, you'll have a good idea of what you eat. You know what I'm saying? I think people overcomplicate that a lot. And it's like, if you're going to eat very similar things, right? Like I eat eggs every day. I eat ground beef every day. I eat those patties, which, man, I did the macros for them. I think it was like 60 grams. It's like, I actually like fat because I don't eat carbs. So like my macros would be different. But it was very simple. After I did it for like, I don't even think I did it for 5 days. And then and then that's what you work off of. But I would, Tanz, Sean, you jump in for this, but I would say focus on the protein. Like focus, if protein is the superpower, that's the one you want to focus on. You shoot for at least 1 gram per body pound. If you're a male trying to work out, like Tanz said, you go over that if you're trying to get bigger. That's an important aspect. You're not going to get bigger if you're not eating more protein in grams than pounds that you weigh. It just won't work.
Yeah, I'd say like think of like the protein as it's going to help like with the muscle recovery and ultimately the muscle growth. And I just think about carbs as like energy for my lifts. So that's the way that I think about it.
So yeah, let's take this last question. Tim to Kill. Also, what's up, dude? He's the best. If the goal is to cut weight, should your protein target be your goal weight? I've read this before. Tanz, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, so in my experience, like when you're cutting weight, you don't need to cut protein. I've actually seen that I think when you're cutting, you should actually be like having even more protein is something that I've seen in the past. But for me, like I always just keep the protein the same. And when I'm cutting, I'll just do like less carbs and less fat.
Yeah, I find that actually, when you try to increase protein, what you realize is it's hard to eat all the other stuff because you're just so full. And I think that kind of works as a weight cutting thing in its mechanism in its own way. Because it is, people be like, yeah, I ate a pound of chicken. Dude, sit down and try to eat a pound of chicken. You know, like Tanz is talking about it like it's one easy feat. It's not fun, you know, like, or eating a pound of ground beef. It's hard. So I think when you could lose weight by keeping protein exactly where it is, it's the other thing. It's mainly carbs. Most people, especially in America, their extra weight stems from processed carbohydrates. Tanz said sourdough bread. Sean was talking about kefir and fermented foods. That stuff helps a ton. Like the bread that my family eats, we get at a local farmer's market. It's a sourdough bread. It has 5 ingredients in it. And you could taste the difference. One piece of it's thick, like it's dense. Like I couldn't eat 4 pieces of that bread if I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the carbs in America, they're so processed that our body can't they can't understand them. That's why you could sit down and eat 7 pieces of Italian bread from America. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not, your body's not counting the calories the way it should. Like when you focus on whole foods, they're dense. They're far harder to eat in quantity than I think a lot of people realize until you just try it, you know? I know Sean's eating 4 pieces of sourdough like an animal.
I'm terrible for that. I just eat as much as I could because I do intermittent fasting, right? So it's when I have
that changes that for sure, right?
Have that window open. It's a game of just eat until I can't anymore, until I feel sick. Like that's the goal.
And like another thing is like everyone's different, dude. Keep doing what you're doing. You look better than me, so don't you know like it. No, but this was awesome. Tanz it's his bedtime. He has a lot to do tomorrow. I know that because that's what he does every day. But dude, what would you say for a closing statement to the listeners just about lifting, what it's done for your life? What do you think it could do for their life?
So yeah, I think I'll wrap it up, but I think one kind of good topic that you mentioned, like I think it was on the timeline was about ego lifting. So do you wanna riff on that for like a minute and then?
Oh yeah, dude, I'll sit here all night talk about ego lifting.
All right, so what are your thoughts on it?
So there is a fine line between like confidence and cockiness in the gym, in the sense of you do need to believe that you are the best, that you could do incredible things, or else you won't push yourself forward to do those things, right? If you don't believe, you won't achieve, right? That I agree with. But what I find a lot of people do is they will lift hurt heavy still because their boys are doing it. They don't want to look like a bitch. And to me, that's when ego lifting becomes counterproductive. And I speak from experience. I did that so much in my life, especially in college. I've watched friends get super hurt. I got super hurt, and it was solely because of ego. I knew I was hurt when I was benching I broke my shoulder benching 315 in college, but it was so hurt already that it was totally my fault. It's called lifter's shoulder. My collarbone like broke into my ball and socket. It was terrible. But my shoulder was so I couldn't pick my arm up before I went into the gym that day. And why I did was I was lifting with this psychopath bodybuilder kid. And he was like, "Are you being a bitch? Are you being a bitch?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to be a bitch." And it's like, well, you just broke your shoulder, and now you're out for 6 months in college, walking around with a sling on like a jerk off. So like that. So when I talk about ego lifting, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think like you really need to listen to your body. And in my experience, like every time I've gotten hurt, like I kind of knew.
You knew it was going to happen. Yeah.
And so like, I think if you really listen to your body, and kind of like, know your limits, then, you're not going to make that mistake. But I mean, the thing that I'll say about ego lifting is that, depending on like where you want to take it, which I think a lot of guys, really want to, get that like shredded physique and, just be as strong as they can, I think you do need to have some ego. I like in my first several years of like lifting at the gym, it was just like all ego lifting.
Yeah.
And then, throughout like the process of iteration and mastery, you start developing all the other things that are necessary, which I think is like time under tension, full range of motion, controlled negative, like squeezing the muscle at different, points in the lift and not using momentum. So I think if like, you don't really need to like ego lift per se. If you're lifting with intensity and, you're also focusing on the motion, and like, once you combine those two things, I think that's like when you, really start seeing the results. So that's what I'll say about it. I mean, for me, like, something that I've seen with like stories of like different athletes is that, like a lot of them have, like been through kind of difficult things in their lives that made them, really like want to take like whatever they're doing to the next level. So I think you do need to have like, like if you really want to get into peak shape, you do have to have like somewhat of a chip on your shoulder. And I think like a lot of, every guy goes through different shit, right? So instead of like, being like an emotional bitch like out in your day-to-day life, just go take that out on the weights, and then you'll find that, like outside of the gym, like you're really calm and you can just like leave all that at the gym.
What do you think about ego lifting, Sean, before we wrap up?
Yeah. So you touched on learning how to listen to your body. And this is just something that's taken me a very, very long time, because there's always that inner question in my mind. Is my body telling me not to do this, or am I being a pussy? Yeah. And that's something you just get with experience, and it takes a while I'm still learning it. I'll have mornings where I go into the cold plunge and it's 3 minutes in. I'm like, I don't feel good. I'm like, no, don't be a pussy. And then I get sick the next day.
Yeah.
It's just a process that takes a long time, because, we're hardwired to want to take the easiest route out. It's just an evolutionary feature.
Evolutionary, yeah. Path of least resistance. It is. And that's why, like, you got to train your brain. Again, I think if Goggins does a great job for anyone that's looking for some type of motivation.
It goes a little far, in my opinion.
See, what I liked about it is if you, like, I listened to it and read it. I think if you listen to it, it's better. But, like, what I took away from it is so many people make these excuses, right? And they're like, well, my life is so terrible. And then he goes through his life and all of his accomplishments. And you go, oh, I'm probably just being a bitch. Yeah. Like I'm probably just being a bitch. And yeah, dude, like Jocko's another good one. Like I remember for years, this is a long time ago, he used to post every morning, 4:30 a.m. because that's when he woke up 7 days a week. I mean, this is for years he did that. I haven't been on Instagram in a while like that. I don't know if he still does it, and then he would always, his famous statement was good. And when anything would go wrong, he would just say good. Like when he was in the military, like a mission was going like absolutely wrong. They didn't get the new equipment they were supposed to, and the people would be freaking out. He'd be like, good. Now we'll know how good we are with the old equipment, or someone would get hurt. Good. We're going to learn how to figure out how to recover and do it better. Like, I think that mindset, if you could keep that mindset, it changes things. Like things aren't happening to you. They're happening for you. You know what I'm saying?
That's Stoicism 101. Don't wish for things to happen the way you want them to happen. Wish for things to happen the way they do happen.
Yeah. I think, and you learn that in the gym, man. Like Tanz said, like, if you're being a little bitch ass like every day, like go into the gym and burn that shit out. Like if I didn't work out, like I got little kids, I call them terrorists because they're insane. But like, dude, if I didn't work out, like, I'd be going nuts sometimes. But it's like by the time, that's why I like to work out in the morning, by the way, get all that out. get all that out before I deal with the day. But it's like, if the hardest thing you do, that's why I love the cold showers. I wish I had a cold plunge, but if the hardest thing you do in the day is when you wake up, your day is better. And I learned that when I was stock building. I ride my bicycle, right? I ride my bike to work, 8 miles, 10 miles, whatever it was. And then I got to work, and the work was hard, but I was smiling the whole time. It's like, yeah, dude, I just rode 8 miles here, 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, the fuck are you going to do to me? It's going to be harder than that. But yeah, this ran a little long. I feel bad. Tanz, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
For sure, man. Yeah, I'll give you my 3 closing thoughts now. Number 1, 6-pack is rarer than being a millionaire. Number 2, the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. And number 3, developing your fitness is going to help you in all areas of life. Whether it be finance and business or women or whatever else you're trying to achieve, it's going to help with all that. So I think it's definitely great as a man to focus on fitness.
Love that. Sean, you got any closing statements?
And Giga's going to 1,000 bill too.
There it is.
No, that was awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'll close on that. That was awesome. I'll close on that. Shine, you have a good day. It's so weird. It's so late here, but you have a great day, brother. I will talk to you when I wake up.
Have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Most of us often chase rather pumps than established memes. And a green candle is somehow spoiled for us until it's screenshot. We stare at charts, forgetting it changes nothing. We watch charts, but not ourselves. This is a disaster. For as a result of confusing dopamine hits with actual profit, we are destroying our net worth. We are so tied up in FOMO and charts that we've lost all conviction. Time to wake up. What is alpha? Obviously, nobody can say, because it isn't just drawing lines on charts. It isn't rotation meta, that's just an idea. Alpha is the Giga cycle cannot be explained in words.